I'll call this meeting to order, the study session to order at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, December 9th. We'll start with excusing Haley Larson, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, we have Heather Curl here from the Washington State School Directors Association. She's here to provide information about the Washington School Board standards and lots of other nice new publications. I included the one in the board packet for you, and they still don't have it in hard copy yet, right? But we got hard copies of the board standards here, the open public meeting, and then she's got a nice presentation for us, so I'm not going to take any more of her time. And here comes Haley, so it'll be wonderful. It's perfect timing. And
hi. Welcome. Thanks.
And Haley, we have Heather Curl is here from WVSD, and she has
nice to meet you.
something for the new board members. So,
yours is at your desk.
I'm gonna make my way over there.
Sounds great. Welcome.
All right, take it away, Heather.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. I hear you worked with Cindy McMullen in the past, close friend, lovely consultant. She wasn't available to come, so I am a second choice, but really happy to be here, and hopefully it'll be beneficial. I was just telling Natalie that I was a former educator and had been in at WVSD for a year and a half, but before that was a teacher educator and education professor. And I found elected officials to be just an incredible new student body, if that makes sense, with new complications and challenges and really exciting opportunities for growth and learning with you all. Y'all come from very different backgrounds and experiences, and I just love leveraging that to support growth. So really excited to be here. Thanks for having me. The first thing to do is say thank you for having an hour of PD as a part of your schedule. Thank you to Dr. Finch and the district for carving out time for this. It's one of the things that we say is most important for board members to do. And welcome to the 2 new board members, because I think this is your first time here. So welcome. Great way to start. The fire hose of new information. But also just thank you to the work you do in your community. I hope people say that to you, but I think it doesn't happen all the time. So we want to just express that from WVSD, gratitude for the service and time that is unpaid that you do and offer to your community. So gratitude your way. Today we have an agenda that's going to focus on intro and objectives. It's just 55 minutes, so I'll move pretty quick through it, but I hope it'll still be meaningful, the key topics we have. I'll go over roles and responsibilities. This will largely be for the new board members, but I think it's helpful to have a refresher always. It'll look familiar, Natalie, from doing the virtual board boot camp, but it'll set the groundwork for everything else we talk about. We'll go into the standards, and I'll talk you through a little bit of that document, but quickly we'll move into some of the research that undergirds those standards, and then do some discussions around what the research finds and how your board tracks with that. If you've seen examples of that, and they're the experienced board members will want to speak up since you've been doing this for a while, and kind of share what it looks like for West Valley. Then we'll talk about the board self-assessment, which also is born out of the standards and the research, and just let people know that that's an annual component that a lot of districts take up for their own PD. And then we'll do takeaways and closures. So that's the plan. We're going to start with intros, though, and what I'd love to hear, there's Post-its there, you have some paper pads if you want. I put some resources out. I'd love you to just think for a second, and we'll go quickly through the list, through the line. What's one goal you have for this short time together? What's one thing you hope to get out of it, accomplish? And then what's one thing about West Valley that you're proud of? It's going to be really valuable for you to hear each other's responses to that and me to support your facilitation. So a few minutes to think about those 2 questions. you when your pens to come. So thanks for knowing that. Natalie, we'll start with you if that's okay. Or go down the line in 1 second once everyone's had a second. And I'll take some notes here. And we'll start with the goals and then come back around with something that you're proud of for West Valley. So go for it.
Okay, so for the first one, I just said I'm hoping to understand more about the roles and responsibilities since I'm brand new and just a deeper understanding.
Excellent. Thanks.
I would say I'd like to just our new board members. I'd like to know maybe like their communication styles, you know, and how best to be able to communicate with you guys, and also what motivates you in coming on school.
Yeah, I'm just excited to re-engage and refocus our thoughts as we go into the next year, thinking about what our students need.
It's pretty simple. I just want to learn one new thing that I don't know from the last couple of years.
I'm just hoping to learn more about WVSD and just what resources are available to us as school board members, because I'm also brand new.
Hey, welcome. Excellent. I think we'll get to, well, hopefully we'll learn one new thing. I don't know. And communication styles isn't on the agenda now, but I'll carve out time to make sure we do that. That was a great call out. Dr. Finch, did you want to share?
I'll
your
just,
goal?
I
We didn't hear from
see
you.
it in the agenda, so I'm hoping introduction to the standards, the Washington School Board, the school board standards.
Yeah.
That's really helpful, and that the self-assessment is aligned to those standards, and the standards actually show that school boards that have alignment to that do have higher student achievement.
Yeah.
So it all kind of fits together. So it's nice to have the introduction to the standards here in the first board meeting for our new board members.
Yay. Thanks, Dr. Finch. That's great. And then let's start with Haley and go back around. Something you're proud of.
I'm just proud of how connected West Valley community and whole, especially given in the schools, is, and how evident that is just throughout our area.
Yeah.
I really like the variety of offerings that we have for students. CTE, college and high school, et cetera. There's several things we have going that I think makes us stand out.
Nice.
I'm really proud of the cohesion and the unity that we see in all of the school district. There's a very strong overreaching plan.
Mine was right along there with what Steve's, but I was thinking of the Innovation Center and just the fact that we have every student has different learning pathways depending on how best to learn, and so I think ours is in many ways is cutting edge, and there's not a lot of districts that have what we have at the Innovation Center, so I'm proud of that.
Nice. That's awesome.
I said the people. I think we have really exceptional staff and teachers and students. If you get to know our students, they just really stand out as kind of being really high.
That's awesome. So we have community offerings, educators, right, at every level. There's some pride here. It's really powerful to hear. Thank you. And what we'll talk about with the research is that the conditions for achievement and success for students in all the different ways you talked about, the role of the board and the work of the board is central to ensuring that all that's true. And we'll talk more about that. But thank you for sharing and bringing that kind of anchored in West Valley's work. We're going to spend a few minutes now just talking about those roles and responsibilities. And what I'd love is folks who have been here, right, to bring this down to West Valley for us, right? So in fact, this is how we do it, or this is what it looks like for us. Feel free to speak back to me, right, and kind of bring it to life for our new board members. Does that sound okay? Be partners with me in that. And so this shouldn't be surprising. The governance team is made up of everyone at the table here, right? We have the school board directors and we have the superintendent. You're all responsible together for leading the school district. And what we find is that it's most effective when you all work together, right? When we have the arrows moving in the same direction, then more progress occurs, whether it's CTE, programming, offerings, PD for teachers, whatever it is, everything is more seamless when we're going the same direction, which takes intentional communication so that everyone feels like their voice is heard and they can be on board for going in that same direction, right? So a bunch of our work together is figuring out what those communication pathways are and the processes so that everyone feels like they're part of a governance team, in part because no individual school director has authority. You actually only have authority as a quorum of 3. So it's just going to be much more effective when there can be pathways for communication so that you can get to quorum with clarity, and so that 1 or 2 people aren't kind of confusing the message or getting off track of where that pathway is going, if that makes sense. So that can be one of the most important learnings for new school board members, is that they can't actually just come on and say, here's what we're doing. But you can convince, you can share, you can offer your story, you can ask questions. There's a lot of power and importance with the one individual. It's not that you don't have any power, you do, but you don't have authority, right, to vote except as a quorum. Does that make sense? So that is a really important thing to know about the role. So now I'm going to offer 3 different ways to make sense of the roles and responsibilities, knowing that people kind of engage with the different ways of thinking about it. We're going to start with a gear metaphor. So we have 3 different key components of making a district work. The strategic level is going to be that school board. You're determining the what, that strategic plan, that vision, what the goals are, right? And you are driving the work of the tactical level, which is that superintendent who's deciding who, right, with their staff, and how they're bringing to life that what that's been determined by the community-backed board, right? So you can see that we need to move in the same direction, right, in order for progress to work. And then we have the soup, who is most directly related to the operations level, which is literally doing the work with young people in schools, with principals, et cetera, right, to make all of it actually happen. And so when we're all working in tandem, we don't work without the others, right? So even though you're not directly on that operations side, because that's not your role, you're supporting that work that's really important through your relationship with the superintendent. Does that make sense? So we're all on that same path, right? If you're going the other direction and you and the soup have a different, you can see how work is thwarted and the operations isn't moving, right? And that's where we get student achievement going down, or students not getting what they need, et cetera, right? Because if the operations wheel can't turn, then we're not doing the actual work of the education, right? So that's one metaphor that helps people see or think about what their role is and how important each of these components are. And if you're not doing your role of strategy, then no one is turning that. And so that's a really important role actually to support the district. So we're going to think about another metaphor, but be turning those wheels. So let's now think about a map and the important work of educating young people, right, in your district. Again, we're going to think about the different roles as it relates. So the first is going to be the school board role. This is evaluating where we are, asking for data, knowing where we're at. How's the district? How's the budget? How's the progress? Okay. And then choosing that destination. What's the goal? What's the strategic plan? That's the strategy, right? You're thinking about determining the what. Where are we, right? What do we have working with us? And where do we want to head? And then we're making sure that we have the resources in order to make that journey. If we don't have the effective resources, we won't be able to make from where we're starting to where we want to go, okay? So that's financial oversight, that's strategic planning, that's academic oversight, right? Those are 3 key strategy or responsibilities of the board. So now let's talk about the superintendent's role as it relates to this, right, on our journey. The soup is choosing the route. The soup knows what each principal is capable of, right, or has a sense of who he's hired, who they've hired in each of the schools. He knows the curriculum, right, and what's going on in each case. He knows how the students are doing. There's knowledge of the operations that is going to determine, he knows where the mountains are, maybe, right, or where the river is, or what boat is best, to get across the river. Just going with the metaphor, right? But the nuance of the day-to-day operations has to be taken into account in order to determine the route we're taking. And then we also need to lead that team, right? That's the who, right? The SOUP has done the hiring of the folks who are working in the schools, and so he's the leader of everyone who's on that journey. And a key role then is going to be to report back to the board, did we make our destination? How's it going? And that's where question asking of the board is paramount. That's where you are playing that role in asking intentional questions to support the superintendent to report back in a way that's valuable and that's going to help you make good governance decisions, right? So it's a loop, okay? And again, if one side doesn't do their job, then it's going to be really hard to get to the destination efficiently. And now our third way. Sometimes you just need a list and some direct. Here's what I do, here's what you do. So what boards do explicitly is evaluate and oversee that superintendent, right? So the SOUP is reporting back to the board, right? That's a part of that evaluation process. They're not evaluating or terminating staff, right? There's some confusion here, right? During the board, you often, as in a consent agenda, right, you approve any of those things, but the actual hiring is going on with the superintendent. We approve the curriculum, right? But we're not overseeing how the curriculum's taught, right, or what's not done in the school. And often that approval system is coming with a curriculum approval committee, right? Or not approval, but a committee of folks that are practitioners and community members who are talking about the curriculum, right? But you're doing that approval. Creating policies that will be enacted through procedures. Okay, so we're creating and adopting policies, right? But we're not creating the procedures that'll determine how that policy is done in the school. Representing the entire community, including the students, including the communities you don't come from, right? The ones that didn't necessarily elect you, but who is in your community, reaching out, getting to know the community, representing everyone, rather than just one constituency. And then approving district policy and the budget. So we're doing both overall district policy and the budget, rather than setting those school rules. Hoping those distinctions, this is clearly operations and this is clearly governance, but hopefully the metaphors help make sense of where they came from, right? Because not everything's gonna be on the list. There's gonna be a ton of stuff that comes your way that you're like, is this operations, is this governance? I don't know. So that's why the metaphors can hopefully help you distinguish and make sense of what's coming your way. So now that I've gone through that, how does this track for West Valley for folks that have been here? Does this feel right? Is there something that goes across the lines because every community kind of makes sense of things their own way?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what we think.
Yeah.
And I just think there's a real sense of a team between the superintendent and the board members, and really open communication and listening. We've always modeled really good listening to each other to really understand where everyone's coming from.
Amazing.
And then we bring it all together to lead the district.
Awesome. Any questions from the new folks?
I have a comment from an old folk.
Love it.
Only 2 years. I agree with Dr. Finch that that we do work together well.
Yeah.
I think what we have to be careful, and I think about this a lot, is I like to go into, I've done it somewhere, I've gone with Dr. Finch, where I'll go into a school.
Yeah.
And, I don't go in for the purpose, and I can't. I mean, I don't go in for the purpose of evaluating, but sometimes I feel like, should I even go in there because I don't want people to feel intimidated?
Yeah.
But my whole reason for wanting to go is to just learn and see, what's going on and how's things going. And, for the most part, what I'm seeing is like, this is good stuff. And so just to keep that clear line and distinction, I think is important. And always thinking about it in my head, if I go into a room, just to try to make sure I'm not there to evaluate, I'm there to observe, question, learn.
Nice.
Primarily learn.
Right. So that's this kind of sense of role is gonna help you show up in a particular way. Although when you're a board member, right? So that might influence how everyone sees you.
Right.
Yeah. What's the protocol currently for when board members go into schools?
They go with me.
They go with you, so you
side by
organize
side.
it.
Yeah.
Got it. great.
But I go all the time as a parent, so, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a balance there, right?
Yeah.
Because I was in there today.
Mhm.
But I know there's that hat now, right? So you're
Yeah.
kind of switching
Yeah,
hats.
And as I understand it, people kind of develop that. You're just getting started. So like once you're there for a bit, you'll figure out how to show up differently.
Yeah. But I can't go every time with you.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, great. Anything else to bring this forward for this district before we move on?
I think in terms of communication, we just have some standing operating procedures that we have in terms of providing information to the board.
Yep.
We always make sure that the information is in the board packet. We never just hand out stuff right on the spot in a board meeting.
Right.
I don't think that's fair to the board members. So we always put the information in the board packet, and then that gives the board members time to review it over the weekend and Monday. And then if there's anything they have questions on, they can give me a call and just clarify anything they might have a question on.
Mhm.
So it's much more helpful, I think, for them to be able to have those questions answered ahead of time than waiting for the board meeting and us trying to scramble for answers and such. So I think it really facilitates good communication by having the information in the board packet and then knowing that they can call me anytime. I have my cell phone all the time, so
Right.
they can call anytime and I can answer any questions they might have.
Mhm.
And Dr. Finch is very responsive too, and anytime we tend to ask him a question or even ask him if he'd do something, he's usually right on it. I think of today, at the legislative breakfast, we just throwing out the suggestion as we're looking towards this levy and bond about doing videos for social media, and he responded right away today and reached out to
Yeah, the field group.
field group and has the ball rolling already, so.
Already, that's great.
Yeah.
So super responsive, I'm hearing. And I'm also hearing maybe that you would request that questions come in advance. If there are questions on the packet, then that would be great for you to get them in advance rather than bring those to the board meeting originally or
Yes.
immediately.
Right, yeah, it's helpful to have them in advance, because we'll be able to answer the question that the board member has, and then also,
Right.
if it happens at the board meeting, sometimes we don't have the answer, so then that's a little frustrating, probably for the board member. If they have a question, and we can't answer it right away, so
Right.
much better to just give us a call when you have the question, and then we can answer it right away.
Totally. A lot of people call this no surprises as a goal, so that there are no surprises for anyone. There's no surprises in the meeting. You're giving all the materials ahead of time. And there's no surprises from on the board member side. If you have questions or concerns, you're bringing them up ahead of time, so it's not right then. And a lot of districts have that as a part of their norms.
Right.
So,
And then I think just for the new board members, the way we structure board meetings is that we have presentations, that we have annual presentations by the different departments and
There's an
and the
annual
schools.
calendar?
Right.
Great.
But then also we have some flexibility so that if there's a certain area that we'd like to hear more information about, we have some space in the schedule that we can schedule that. So I think it's helpful because it gives us these annual updates, but then also some flexibility to look at some certain areas that we might want to focus on for that year.
Nice. That sounds good. And I'm just thinking about one of those goals. Haley's okay if I call you Haley?
Sure.
Okay. Either of you want to talk about your communication
Oh, yeah,
styles?
this is a good time for that.
This
isn't
seems
it?
like a good moment to bring that in because you're hearing kind of the way it normally happens with the board so far. And does that track for you? And is there a request you might have as you're getting up to speed?
No, I think that's helpful to know, and I mean, I'm used to communicating with all sorts of different people, so anyway, smoke signals, text messages, phone calls, emails, I can do it all, it's fine.
That's great.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Do you have consistent meetings with, do you have like 2-on-2s?
Right, we have the agenda prep, and that gives us a chance not only to look at the upcoming agenda, but long range, what are the areas that we want to get more information. Also, one of the things that I'm very proud of is that we do have high academic achievement in West Valley, and we have a commitment to continuous improvement. We're always looking to get better. The board has been very helpful on that, on identifying metrics, data that they would like to have us track. So, for example, we look at post-graduation success of our students, and then one of the areas that they were asking for was, what about our students going into the military? So we've been tracking that for quite a few years now. Like last spring, we had even the Space Force, we had, I think, 17 students get full ride scholarships.
Going to Space Force?
Not just Space Force, but all the military. Yeah, just so we've incorporated that data collection into the way we do things, and that's been based collaboratively with the school board.
It's an excellent example of that communication in action.
Yeah.
Very cool. Great. I'm going to keep moving on, but whenever you want to bring something forward, please do. So we're going to think a little bit about the standards, and what I'd love you to do is take out this. I'm just going to walk us through just a few minutes, don't worry. We're not going to go through the whole thing. It's a long document. And so we have 5 key standards. They're up here, but I'm going to actually take us through this first, and I'd love us to go to pages 2 and 3. This is just telling you where the standards came from and why they're here. Basically, to support board members to understand what their role is and how to do great in their role, basically. And there's a bunch of research that focuses on this. This was just redone in 2023 with some, the old research was there, and then updated research is also highlighting every single component of it. If I could have a volunteer, because I was a teacher, the very last paragraph of that third page right there above the picture. Anyone feel willing to read the last paragraph? I annotated it with a heart on purpose so that I would make sure I knew to read it. Anyone feel willing?
I will.
Thank you.
WSDA, or WSSDA, recommends a 3-part approach. Become familiar with and apply the standards to your board work. Use WSDA's free board self-assessment survey annually to track your progress in relation to them, and supplement individual and team learning through professional development, including taking trainings offered by WSDA and attending its annual conference.
If you want, those 2 are optional. The idea is PD, right? Continuous improvement. Figure out, I don't know what SIPs are. I need to request a work session to learn all about SIPs, right? Or I don't know about the budget. I need to learn. So WSDA does offer a training about the budget, so that might make sense. But really figuring out what you need to learn more about, and then as a team, figuring out what your areas of weakness are as a team, right? In fact, none of us know this community, right? Or none of us know how to about this particular policy, right? None of us are doing advocacy in Olympia this year. Figuring out how you can leverage the strength of your team, and then figure out where the holes are for PD and decide to take that on, right? So that's what we recommend, and the standards are central here because they are based on research that says that the work of boards really, really matters, and so that's the key. And then every year we recommend checking in on how your board's doing. We offer a self-assessment. You don't have to use ours, but have some annual way that you're checking in on your progress. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then the last component is learn more, right? So those are the 3 things that we really recommend, and the standards are the starting place. So next page, here's the 5 standards kind of written out. And what I want to do is just orient you a little bit to what in the world this booklet's talking about. So we have responsible school district governance is standard 1. Standard 2 is all about high expectations, communicating them and really believing them, right? That all students in your district can reach high expectations or achieve high expectations. Creating conditions district-wide for student and staff success. Holding the district accountable for student learning, and then engagement of the community in education. So you can see that these overlap, right? But they're key distinct ideas, and within each one, in this booklet, there's a benchmark. So the benchmark is saying what this might actually look like in your work. So everyone turn the page for me, and let's look at standard 1, just so that we can know what we're saying. Responsible school district governance. So there are 6 benchmarks here in this one standard, and we're just going to look at the first one: conducting board and district business in a fair, respectful, and responsible manner. So this is just what this might look like in practice, right? How do you actually practice responsible school governance, right? Well, you conduct your meetings fair and responsibly and respectfully, and then you go down and you see the indicators. Those are questions to ask that help you say, what does this actually mean, What does this look like? Am I speaking respectfully? Am I doing all these things? And what you'll see is that the self-assessment is grounded in these indicators. So that the questions you'd answer in your self-assessment, once you've been doing it a little while, for those of you who are new, as you answer it, it'll help you reflect on whether you're doing some of these indicators that help answer this benchmark, which help you achieve that big standard. Is this making sense? So this is the breakdown, and of course, if you've been a teacher or you've been working with the standards at all, you're familiar with this breakdown, but sometimes it can be different when it's not a topic area you're familiar with. So this is how this whole booklet basically works. So I just wanted to give kind of a primer so that you know how to engage with it. And then what you'll see is, we're gonna talk a bit about the research in a second, but first I wanna do this. So what you'll see is the board self-assessment. There are a series of questions that are organized in each of the standards. So then when you see the results of your self-assessment, you'll be able to check in on how your board is doing at each of the standards. And then maybe do some goal setting if, as you analyze yourself and your practice, what areas of growth you might have as a board. Does that make sense? How those connect? And so I guess I have a question. Do you all do the annual self-assessment consistently, and when is it in the year?
Yeah, we did it last January and had Cindy come and debrief in February.
Great.
So we were thinking, with the new board, we probably wouldn't do it this time in January since they would have had one meeting.
That's right.
Yeah, we probably wait and do it after a year.
You're like, I'm doing wonderful. I have no idea what any of this is yet.
Yeah, so, and we do know that that is a prerequisite for the Board of Distinction, and West Valley did receive the Board of Distinction just recently at the annual conference. So.
Yes, you did.
And I appreciate the board. The board has done the self-assessment in previous years as well.
That's great.
So it does help, and we have shown alignment and understanding of, like that example there, that the board meetings are done in a fair, respectful, and responsible manner.
Right.
There's been quite a good alignment on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. And that's the kind of evidence you can say that like we work well together, right? Even when we disagree, even when we are coming up with, processing something, there's still evidence over years, right? That it's an effective, strong board, and that it's really helpful to show that over years. So great. So hopefully this helps understand kind of where some of those questions are coming from, is that they're anchored in those indicators that support you to reach the standards. So now let's talk about where those indicators come from, right? Why? And so there's been a lot of, so I was an education researcher, right? I've read a lot of research papers. There's a lot on proximal factors. That's closest to the student, right? Ultimately, the teacher really, really matters. And no question, right? An effective teacher is everything, right? But it's not actually everything. There's a bunch of other stuff that goes in to an effective community, an effective school-based, a sense of belonging, right? A sense of access to other things, right? Mental health, whatever. A lot goes into student success. And so there's been a lot of research on students and parents, on teachers and on principals. And they do matter, but the distal factors also matter, and there's just been less research on that. So superintendent really matters, an effective superintendent. If you get a lot of turnover with superintendents, the test scores start to go down of the district, right? Even though the SUP is not teaching the kids, it really matters. Similarly, when there's upheaval in a school board, the test scores go down. We see lower test scores for those boards that reported disarray or disagreement or disrespect or focusing on one issue instead of student data, right? And so we see that it does affect student achievement when the board's not working together. You don't have to agree, but you have to work together, right? And so those studies out of Montana, and I know you research, and then there's been others out of Texas, which is part of the same project, all out of Iowa, called the Lighthouse Studies. They really found this connection between school board work and student achievement. And so ultimately, because when boards are addressing factors within their control, like how they talk to each other, right? How they talk about students during the board, how they, the questions they ask, how much time in a board meeting they focus on student learning. Those are the kinds of things that create the conditions for district-wide success, that third standard. Okay, so a lot of board actions really do matter. And so this is, a lot of these studies were, a lot of this data was published in a series in the Texas Lone Star out of the Texas State Agency, so our like sister agency. And so it's published there. If you'd like copies, I'm happy to give them to y'all to read, but I'm just gonna give you the results and use it as a chance to talk a bit together about how it all shows up for West Valley. So we're going to start with boards and districts with high student achievement. So these are the kind of consistent, highest rated board actions of those districts that were the highest achieving. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm going to give you a second to read them. And then think on your own. And again, you can write down some notes and we'll hear from whoever wants to share what resonates for you as you review the list of these board actions. And then what surprises you, if anything. So we're gonna start hearing from everyone after you jot down some ideas, and then the next round we'll do some pair work, okay? So we'll give you a second to read. Can everyone read it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just take a second now to think, as a community member, if you're newly elected, or as a parent, as a board member who's been doing this, as the soup, what of these resonates for you based on what you've experienced and witnessed? And does anything surprise you? Happy to hear from anyone who feels ready.
I would just say number 10 is kind of the whole point of everything. And so all of the other stuff should be in service to number 10.
Nice.
And then I was surprised at number 4 that I guess I'm just surprised that there would be people that disagree with that or don't believe that.
Yeah.
That would be, yeah.
Even a thing, right?
Right.
It does exist, actually. There's some boards who talk about certain groups not succeeding,
Right.
or who express it in their interactions. Yeah, because you don't always communicate just with explicit language, right? Sometimes you communicate it in how you receive certain feedback. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Nice.
Number 4, that all students can learn, in the board packet, we're going to have a presentation from Montana Valley, and there's a quote from a teacher in the board packet that's all about that they believe that all kids can make it here at Montana. And they do everything possible to make that happen.
That's great.
I like number 5. It feels like we're doing it right here, right now. Carving out time to have orientation for our new board members and
Absolutely.
help to form a new inclusive team. I feel like we're doing. We've taken time to do that this evening.
Check, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm. And it's so important. And so I've worked with boards who, a new board member has been on for 6 or 7 months, right? And I'm with them, and they find out through the board self-assessment that the person put "I don't know" on almost all the questions. And it surfaced, and this is a high achieving board, but it surfaced that they hadn't onboarded effectively. And so you miss 6 or 7 months of that board member really being a part of the team, right? So yeah, it's really important. And even higher, right, than some others that you would expect.
Yeah, for me it's different because I've been on multiple other boards in other aspects of my life, and I've never really had like an onboarding to the board. Like I've had like strategic planning and stuff, but I've never had like this sort of a session, so it's kind of above and beyond what I expected. I thought I was going to be thrown into the wolves a little more, so it's nice.
Good. That's good.
I think number 2, we've talked about it, resonated with me, just the respect issue, even when you disagree. I think this board, I've been on a couple of years, and even through some disagreements, we've all just had a respect with each other, and even outside the board, we'd say that to each other in the parking lot, like, hey, even though we disagreed, thanks for being respectful and back and forth. And I think that's been a really good thing. And probably like the rest of you, I agree that number 4, I'm not sure why it's there, but it's like, yeah, all students can learn.
Right. But I worked with plenty of board members who've had to work with board members who didn't always have that, right? But they had their own learning path and got there, so.
Maybe it just serves as a good reminder too that we need to keep our like policies and actions like focused on that as
That's right. And sometimes a way to look at that too is that the amount of time you're spending on students during the board meeting, the amount of time you're spending on student learning and focused on students. Sometimes we can get distracted by the bus schedule or a levy. Not that that doesn't matter, it's everything really, but also if you're not spending time on that, then you're not communicating it maybe in your choices of agenda even.
I suppose I should represent our assistant superintendent who's not able to be here this evening, Stacy Drake, because she always references the John Hattie meta-analysis research. And, you know, the number one factor that has the largest effect size is collective efficacy of staff, so everyone working together and working in the same direction.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is the teacher expectation, student achievement. If you think the kid can do it, then you're going to keep working and help them make it. If you think the kid can't get it, you'll probably give up on the kid and just move on. So that belief that all students can learn, it really is research-based.
Absolutely. And you can message that from the board and it trickles down, right, in a really important way. If you set a goal, you're believing, you believe with the superintendent that we can achieve that or make some progress toward it, right? But you're gonna spend time during your meeting, you're gonna spend time asking, right? It's that relationship between belief and time spent that can help achieve it.
Right, I think some ways, like you said, creating the conditions and creating the culture, that this is the way we do things around here. And,
That's right.
and we do believe in kids, and we want to have multiple pathways so they can have success. Maybe success looks different for different kids,
Yes.
but there's multiple pathways for success.
But you believe in success of them, right? Nice, great. I think commit to a clear and shared purpose is another key one, right? That when we have a shared purpose and we're all putting our time toward that, and that's gonna just increase its potential for being reached, right, or met. Great. I'll move to the next one. This is a little more negative. Low achieving districts and low performing boards. So qualities of low, here's some of the qualities of those. And what I'm gonna have you do is just read it, and then when you're ready, turn to the person next to you, or it's 6, so that'll work out, and just talk through what resonates, right? What tracks for you, and if anything, what surprises you, and then anchor it to West Valley when it makes sense. In that you're not doing it, is what I'm hearing, which is great.
There's no surprises.
Yeah. It takes away from the focus of the district when there's always.
Infighting and frustration. Spending too much time as personal. Yeah, totally. There's nothing in there that is surprising that that'd be dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Are there any that you feel need more?
No, I mean, I see it's working well together, having the communication. I think
Yeah.
I rely on the board too. Because you were hearing things that.
Sometimes it
People
gets
tell you
responsible about them.
Yeah, that's true.
You're able to give me a heads up. I know what to be proactive.
Well, and that's one of the things that I feel in the positive. I feel like we
Bring
have
it
each other.
together.
Like we're not out to hurt each other. The best reasons.
I agree.
I taught it. I have elementary kids that I taught US history and literature, and then I taught English in middle school. That's okay. I like little skinny to you didn't say all those grounds from that. Oh, I lost first grade. She didn't say the whole part. She did say crisscross applesauce. Yeah.
Young, they turned 16.
Sorry.
About 10 minutes.
Yeah, we're doing great with time. And so, anything resonate? Let's start there.
I shared with Natalie, I think, just the number 5, less good working relationship with the governance team. You know, and I think just the better we know each other, the better we work together. You know, so, and I think that's just something that resonates with me. And as far as surprises, I don't think anything is surprising. But
Anyone else? What'd you say?
As in that, we're good.
They're good. You'd be surprised how many boards need to work on some of these things, actually. I would say particularly members advancing their own agenda. So sometimes, and it's complicated because they are elected sometimes with the idea of change, of putting something forward because there's disagreement maybe with something that they've seen. There's a natural tension that surfaces. And yet, the onboarding is a really key part where you understand what your role is, you work as a team, and that when you're advancing an agenda, that's not going to support like the work of the district, the work of the student necessarily, right? In terms of the research. So for some, that can be really surprising and helpful. Another is taking excessive meeting time. There are some districts who feel like some boards who feel like it's really good for the community to hear the board discuss things a long time so that the community knows where the board members are coming from. And others who feel like that time is better spent on student data and on other things and getting the work of the board done. So that is another disagreement that can surface. And so it's just helpful to know that those that exists, you know, but it sounds like your team is on board with not doing these things, which helps student learning. So that's great. Anything else to add around what to make sure we don't do?
Well, I think you talked about keeping the focus on student learning, and I think our programs help to do that. And then the board members often have questions for the presenter, and I think that shows some really good engagement. And it also is really some accountability. So, you know, it's holding our staff accountable that we are making progress and we have that continuous improvement mindset.
That's right.
And then these questions that the board have are usually spot on like basically what's the next step, you know. And so I think there's a place there for the board to have these questions that they might have of the presenters.
Yeah.
And the presenters are most times all about student learning.
Yeah. And sometimes I know you can have strategic questions, right? So that you might even know the answer because you've already talked about it, but you pose the question so that the community hears the response, and so that there's a chance to demonstrate engagement with the content. And so that can all be really intentional because you are doing it's a way to show engagement and alignment and governance to the rest of the community. So question asking is a thread that we have throughout our trainings. It's really important. Wonderful. So I've already talked about the board self-assessment as it connects to kind of the work and the 3 things we recommend, which is getting to know the standards, doing an assessment of yourself on those standards, and then just growing in PD. And with that, I think we're at a place where we're gonna just do some overall takeaways, and I have one final activity, but I do want to hear from it to benefit the new board members. I'd love to hear from the experienced board members a way you've grown as a board member since your tenure started, so that you can kind of share some of that PD or growth that you've had. I think that would be a nice way to model it for them.
Yeah. I think just asking good questions and thinking things through,
Yeah.
getting to the point where you're looking ahead, you're planning ahead, and you're checking in with Peter is a great way to get oriented.
Nice.
I think one of the ways is maybe just understanding more and more that we're always learners and we're always learning, and you know, like that's why we're doing this, right? Is because none of us have arrived, and I think I'm reminded of that. You know, that I haven't arrived, and there's always room for growth, and so. I like the challenge of learning more and stepping into maybe like the legislative world and how that affects the school districts and stuff like that. So
Nice.
I've enjoyed that.
That's great. Are you a ledge rep?
Not right now.
Nice.
No.
Nice.
I think for me, similar, listening and learning. I'm never done learning. And I'm also not afraid to call Peter, text Peter, say, hey, what was that? Or what did that mean? Or where are we going
Yeah.
with this? Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a dumb question here, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
important to ask.
Sometimes it feels like it, but it's not. There's
That's
not.
right.
Even just the acronyms. I mean, people throw acronyms around
So much.
education, and
There's like
feel free to
400 of
ask.
them.
Yeah.
Oh, I keep a running list.
The other thing
Trying
is
to
that
learn them all.
it's always changing, right?
Yeah.
The legislature happens every single spring, and like new laws come out, new policies then exist. There's just always ever changing. The board is always changing. Sometimes the soup change. And so there's just, it's such an evolving thing to learn that you never really arrived, right? There's always something to grow. And for the 2 new board members, you'll see in your packet, there's a new board member kind of path for growth. And you'll see that kind of advocacy and policy and those things are on your 2nd term. And then even your 3rd term, you can think about WASDA board work or leadership WASDA. There's an opportunity to grow with each term that you're here. And we try and support that because we want to leverage your experience and also ensure that you have a chance to continue growing as a governance leader. So that's the goal. The last activity is going to be just here. And you all see Post-its in front of you, Post-it notes. So you might have taken some, which is great. I'd like you to open a new one. And what we'd like to close with is just a few of these questions. And think about supports for success moving forward. So from the board, what does the board need from the superintendent? What do you need from the superintendent? We already have clear communication, but particularly the new board members, what do you need? What's on your mind that you need from the soup? What do you board members need from each other? Right? Because you're a governance team together. So what do you need from one another? And superintendent, what do you need from your board? So go ahead and jot down some of those things on the Post-its, and I'll walk around and collect them in a second.
You want one on each?
I do.
Okay.
You can just put all your ideas. Yeah, one on each probably. Yeah. And I'm going to collect them on this paper. And as you add them to the paper, you'll read it out loud. The crowd grew. Be behind John, and when you're ready, let me know, and I'll just ask you to read your Post-it as you put it on the poster. Are you feeling ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
Consistency and information to help ensure we're prepared not just for meetings, but also when we're representing the district and the community.
Nice. And then do you have
Want my other one?
words from one of those? Yep.
Yeah, just grace and understanding as we kind of learn the ropes.
Grace and understanding, wonderful. That's okay.
And superintendent, clarity and communication and no surprises from each other, respect each other.
Nice. Thank you.
For our first one, we did history. How did things work in the past? What's the data? How do we communicate those things? And then for second one, the ability to talk things through, gain understanding, get where everyone's coming from. And then for the third one, support and questions, making sure that you feel affirmed.
Yep.
Nice. Thank you.
I just want to
Yeah.
ask questions.
Ah, that's what you
I'm
need. You
available.
need them to ask questions.
Yep.
Excellent. And that takes engagement, right? And presence. Wonderful.
So the board from, what the board need from superintendent,
Yeah.
with consistency and just along the lines of, I think as he fulfills his role, he's just consistent. I think that continues to build the relationship that he has with the administrative staff and
Yeah.
teachers. And then board from one another, I think is patience. You know, that just goes right along with communication and understanding how to work with one another and realizing we don't all communicate or work the same way. And then superintendent from the board, I put trust.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Excellent.
Okay, so for
Yeah.
the board needs, I said strategic questions and background content.
Nice.
And then the board from one another, it said respect and understanding and appreciation for different voices.
Mm.
And superintendent needs consensus and direction.
Consensus and direction. Nice.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much. I'll type up everything I have here as notes so that you have this as a list and
Great.
knowing what you all need from one another. And that takes me right to the end, where I can say there's a bunch of resources. I'm here to support particularly the new board members, but anyone, should you want to present at annual conference, should you want to talk through something, if you have any questions, WASD is available. So please just reach out. And thanks for having me.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take this meeting to adjournment at 6:56 on Tuesday, December 9th, with a brief break, and we'll return at 7 p.m.